All right.
Okay. Sorry, I did say.
Hello.
Hello
Welcome.
and welcome. Yep. And
I'm not here.
Curry is here, but Curry's got a problem where everything he says he reboots. Say hello, welcome to Let's Try Out, Curry.
I'm trying desperately so I can reboot, and I've got everything's blocking from doing it.
Yeah.
Yes, I
so
want
there's
Eve.
that.
It's very funny.
Hold down the power button and just give it the birdie. Give it the one finger salute.
Yeah.
And that's why I no longer have a Mac, because it turns out if you do that too many times, you just need to reinstall. It just gives up.
Yeah.
It
So he was saying his Mac's been on for 58, or was it 56 days uptime? So yeah, if you it's and it tricks Stephen into a sort of a restart, thinking it was like some sort of weird
gaslit me into something's gone wrong. Well, I quit out the stream. I didn't restart, but I bounced the sound server.
No worries.
Bounced Pulse Audio.
Anyway, today you're joined by everyone's favorite Curry Kitten, who's rebooting. Everyone's favorite moustache.
Low. That's Curry's part. That'll do.
Yep. Stephen.
Hello. Nice to see you, everyone.
Brighton till I fly, and welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Hello, Numbskull. I saw Numbskull has got some original bot grinder motors, and he was showing them off. And Richard Warwick's got the dreaded COVID. So I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you get better. So just take it easy.
Get well soon.
Yep. Hello, Lurgy. Welcome to the chat. Let us know what you want to do about that shirt, and we'll try and figure it out. But yeah. Yeah, we were talking ESCs. I don't know what rating. I've got 1700 kV, so I don't know, 35 upwards, really.
On a what, like a 2205 or?
Yeah, 2205, 2206, yeah, something like that.
Okay, so that's going to pull less power than like a 2207. So you'd probably be okay on a 45 amp, maybe a 35 even.
Yeah, 2207 they are.
Oh, 2207. Okay. I thought you were on these ancient like Emax motors, but that was just
they're Eco.
Ah, the Emax Eco. Yeah, I've got them. I was running those on a quad up there, in fact, and I'm doing that on a 35 amp ESC. I haven't trashed it yet, but it's kind of my slow cruisy one. Probably something with a bit of headroom.
Because I've got separate ESCs that are KISS ESCs, but I just don't want to trim these wires down.
Right.
And I thought I'll give BL Heli a go. And
what's the worst that can happen, right?
Yeah.
If you get curious, you could always flash AM32 just for giggles, I suppose, as well.
Yeah.
That's supposed to have a similar feel to the KISS ESCs, because you can do like better braking, and you can do sine mode startup, but the developers told me you don't want to do sine mode startup because it dumps a ton of current, and the transition from sine mode to not sine mode is kind of rough. Apparently sine mode startup is really just a novelty thing. You don't want it to actually work at speeds where it's providing thrust, and you don't want to leave it in sine mode for too long, because unless you've got like a big RC crawler with a giant can, it's going to put a ton of heat out, and on like a 2207 there's just not enough places for the heat to go.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. Because that's something that you were looking at your FetTech ESC. That's got trapezoidal mode, isn't it? So
if you think about it, it's less efficient, but it's pushing the same amount of current. So what does that mean? Well, ultimately it just means that the power's not going to make the motor spin. It's going to be lost as electrical losses, and so what you're doing is dumping a bunch of power into the coil isn't used as efficiently, and it's just going out as heat.
Nice.
Yeah.
We've got Caroline, we've got Clive. Hello.
Hello.
Richard Warwick. I haven't gone to get the those wing stickers cut yet. I haven't gone that way, which I might have to go that way for tomorrow. But yeah, I tell you what I have been playing with. The JST SH. I bought myself the engineer crimpers
Oh my
to
word.
be able to make my own cable. So yeah, I'm trying to neaten up the fleet a bit, really. But
I admire your persistence. I just went and I ordered the cables from AliExpress and had some poor child in China make me up cables and send them to me. How do the crimpers work? Are the results good?
I've successfully done one out of many, and it's very tedious and very annoying. So I do not recommend it at all.
I imagine you want to do a few and use them on like little LED projects before you put them in a quad, right?
Yeah, and I can't even like I keep ordering the hubs to repair them because they get a bit mashed up on the KISS flight controllers and stuff, and I keep getting the horizontal ones. So if anyone knows the ID for the ones that
right.
are 90
so they've
degree,
got
let me
JSTs,
know.
but they don't have pads on the other side because a lot of boards with JSTs they put pads as well.
No, it's both sides. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to, and it's been windy as all hell.
I remember I started building with little cheapo stacks, and I had like an eSheen F3 stack, like a 20mm one that was all JSTs, and they give you the JSTs with the PVC wires, and when you're learning to solder, the mess that you make of JSTs with PVC wires is just atrocious. The other end is just like a tangle of shorted gobs of solder with bits of plastic burnt on it and dripping. It's horrible.
Not good. Have you been out flying?
Have I been out flying? I've been in flying, actually. I've done a whole load of whoop work. Whoop work! Whoop whoop!
Hey, do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So, I've got things. They're all reachable. For some time, I loved my FR Sky because it was cheap. Then it annoyed me because I could only fly down the bottom of the stairs and turn left. And if I turned right, I fail-safed at the bottom of the stairs. I'm sick of that. So I upgraded to ELRS. I had this mob light, which is a bit of a fussy one because they're solder-on motors on a whoop. So it's like insect surgery.
Ooh.
So I put that to an ELRS Diamond F4 board and did my insect surgery. And I tried to upgrade the antenna, but oh my god, no. It's like a little enamel wire antenna.
Yeah.
Viewers there, which is like absolute horror to try and remove. It's a through-hole one, annoyingly. The ELRS antenna, which doesn't really matter, is not... Oh, what happened? I've frozen. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
The
Curry has that
ELRS
effect
antenna
with people.
Does my white mic work
it's
now?
just a surface one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, let me just unplug and replug the camera. Your browser's lost connection to the camera. Yeah, no shit. But yeah, I was able to resolder that, but I could not for the life of me remove the antenna. And after some experience with another board trying to pull out wires and resolder it, I just thought, no, I'm not doing it. So I left the antenna there. So it's 400 milliwatt with a piece of enamel wire, which is really great at getting the flight controllers about 75 degrees unless you take off quickly. Then I also bought another one. I bought one that had plugs because I don't hate myself enough to go through that again, even on 65mm. And that's quite nice and fun. But then I discovered the reason I stopped flying this at the end of last year is because the two rear motors keep seizing up. And they look fine, but they just take off and then randomly stop spinning and it falls to the floor. And if I lower the startup power, I can observe that the rear motors are not happy spinning. So 0702 motors in the post to test them out and replace those. And another one that I did already using a 1S and 2S board for a bit of a giggle, with a proper antenna connection, proper dipole and all the dipole, proper
Hey.
UFO, no soldering. So I can fly anywhere in the house, and I can even go and scare the rude cats that sit on the bike shed outside and pick on our cats. I can fly a whoop at them and say shoo, because our cats are apparently too polite to go and face off, and they just sort of stand by the window looking terrified and go. So I gave them a helping hand, the poor little dears, and I scared them off with a little 75mm whoop, so they can go out into the garden again. Lucky things.
I
So
know
that was
you.
my flying.
So Raspberry Pi and a camera with an NVIDIA Shield with auto detect, and when it detects cat shapes, it alerts you to a cat alarm, and out goes the whoop, and defend your territory.
Yeah. That could work. Apart from the fact that I've got a little pond outside, so I probably lose a couple of whoops a week that way.
Get a net over it. You'll be fine.
Curry, have you been flying?
Someone has a dodgy mic.
I reckon it's Stephen. Can you mute a sec, Stephen? Not Stephen. Jack?
Is it me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unmute. There it
There's
is.
a little bit of hum. If you've got a noise gate, you want to dial a noise gate?
No, I don't know. I'll have a look.
This is Welcome to Equipment Fails special on LDO, where I had to reboot my entire computer. I didn't know I had so much unsaved work. It takes 90 seconds to reboot, 5 minutes to decide if I want to make all the changes that apparently I haven't saved in like 6 different packages. But to answer the question, no flying this week, because I have mainly been having a bathroom being fitted, and that has led me to start working on the sim. And then I got involved too much in that, and now I have to finish off what I'm doing before I do anything else. Else I will lose the. There's not much to tell. The racing, I say racing in the loosest sense of flying around gates for a course
through a series of objects
over a period of time is
Am I still buzzy?
That's better. Did you fiddle with the cables?
It's the cloud lifter at the back. Like, there's like loads of. It likes to sit a certain way, but I've grounded all the cable. I need to check this cable to make sure it's grounded as well. It's just a bit of a potch. Because, it's audio shit, man. Like, a lot of time you crack this stuff open and none of the grounds are connected.
That's why I got a mic that has a USB right in the back. No messing around with.
So does mine. It didn't help me.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your Mac, though. It's got a life of its own. It's trying to start a rhythm band without telling you.
It's only this mic that does it. It's like every couple of weeks. Or however often I'm doing some voiceover. I do this massive voiceover in YouTube. I'm talking through a flight. I'm going to play that back, and it's like up. It's like brilliant. I have to do it all over again, and then I have to eventually reboot. This time's been 56 days.
Your Mac's gone sentient, and it thinks you're the sampler, and it's just like hitting the play stop button. It's like,
in that case, it needs some work on its DJ, because it's not getting any sort of rhythm for me. It's just awful.
Who's it got to learn from?
You got to learn to talk with the rhythm, and then you'll be the all street like with the kids.
Yeah.
Street with the kids.
It's encouraging you to rap. You've just got to get the flow dialed.
Sounds like someone that would say who's not down with the kids, really.
Yeah, I know. I hate kids. They terrify me. Speaking of people who terrify me, I saw Oscar Lang today.
Wow.
I went and caught up with old Oscar. Yeah. He is jacked. He's ripped. He is like been doing a ton of working out. He's got like a washboard stomach. I just felt like
it's hard to tell because most people that have read Oscar's blog and seen the occasional YouTube video won't have seen any part of him whatsoever. I have
He's
seen
invisible.
the photos you took with him when you went flying years ago.
Yeah.
And he would be hard to pick up out of a lineup. He's still like, if you took a photo directly of him, he might have like a blurry face, like he'd been edited out. He's that incognito. He manages to avoid all.
Yeah,
all
I
photos and
asked him.
contacts.
I asked him whether he'd come on Let's Drone Out, and he was just like, "I don't want that much information out there about me." So I was just like, "Oh, come on, man!" But no,
He's got his own website where he posts a series of news articles regularly. He's got a Facebook group.
Yeah, well, he's got a forum as
Patreon.
well. He's got a forum, you know,
and the entire thing is based around his name, but he doesn't want to be known.
Yeah.
See where we went wrong in the beginning.
Yeah, really. How will people ever find anything out about him?
I know.
Mystery. Well, good luck to him. I did post on our news section that, with his washboard abs and everything, he's been indulging in a lot of screwing recently, and he's posted an article about it. He's discussing whether you want steel, aluminium, or titanium.
Ooh.
And the controversy of button head versus socket head, for example.
Oh, I like a socket head myself, but I understand button head.
He's gone through and he's weighed them all obsessively. Like he's got M3 8mm and 6mm bolts, and he's freaking weighed every permutation of them. So, I mean, he clearly just blasted off an order to AliExpress, and eventually it came in. He's like, right, I've got to do something with this. Apparently, if you're weight conscious, what you want is a button head aluminium, which is going to net you a grand total of 0.17 grams on an M3 6mm. Whereas if you're a big porky chonker, you can go up to a steel with a 12.9 high tensile rating, and that's 0.66 grams. How will you even take off with that? It's outrageous.
The thing is with the aluminium is
Wake up, Curry. Back to us. Stay away from the light.
I've used only the hardened aluminium from Impulse RC. So, but I've also come across Chinese aluminium screws which literally destroy themselves as you screw them into anything.
I bought some Chinese titanium screws, and I think I can snap them in half with my teeth.
No way. Have you still got them?
Yeah, I snapped the head clean off one over talking it.
Fuck.
I will buy anything that doesn't instantly become like a round hole as I try and tighten up. It's like, whoop, that slipped. Whoop, that slipped. I've made a massive hole. Then I end up with a T-driver bashing it in just to make a new hole and screw that in or unscrew it.
You're an animal.
Just use tape. Where's Tony when you need him? Well, he's talking
Glue
professional fittings. Yeah. Bit of arrow tight, call it good.
Terrible. So, did anybody go flying? I heard the Stephen story about whoops and cats. Was that your flying thing for this week?
That was my flying because it started to rain, and where I live, it is clay. So, the local area is slowly filling. The aquifer is raising, and soon it will be about ankle height.
Not only that, it's been particularly windy over the last couple of weeks as well.
It's windy as fuck here. It settled for like the evening for the last 2 hours of daylight down here. Oh yeah, how are you getting on? Have you Have you hollowed it out?
I've hollowed it out so I can fit things into it. I don't know what things are going to fit in there, but it is now a hollow fuselage instead of a solid fuselage.
Hollow fuselage of a little glider, everyone.
Apparently they make these in different sizes. This is one of the smaller ones. There's an XL, which I probably should have got in retrospect, but it looks like you were talking about the little curvy dihedral thingies, whatever they were.
Polyhedral, dihedral.
Hedrally ends, hedrally nobbles. And apparently they make it fly better, but I noticed they are only on the small version. They are not on the large version. That is a very small wing. I don't know if you can see. That's my head. That's a pretty small wing. So
yeah, people don't really know. We need to get some of the bananas
it's about
from
45 centimeter wing. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to have to be really careful with the electronics.
Have you
So is
noticed
this
there's even aileron mold marks in that wing? Have you seen that?
But they're really tiny. Have you seen how
They're
big they
tiny.
are?
Yeah.
Caroline's
Doesn't
saying
look
that isn't a
realistic
little
to me.
glider. I was going to say, is that the little one, or is this one of the Banggood specials for like £1?
I got 2 for £6 on eBay. Boom, boom.
Oh,
You know,
right.
when
So
I
they're the
pick it
Banggood jobby job. Yeah, I think the little ones are bigger, aren't they? Yeah,
Mm.
Caroline's saying they only sell the XL version.
Yeah. I saw kids throwing the one I've got in the park. So, yeah, they only sell the XL version, right? So a couple of years ago, they did a small one like that, but now they only sell the chunky chunker.
That's weird. I went and got a few of those. I got 2 of them for my friend Dan Upton. I like your new profile photo, Caroline. It's nice. Just switching it up a bit. What about you, Curry? Have you done anything?
No, as explaining, I've been waiting for my bathroom to be fitted. So I've been here as the man keeps asking me confusing questions about which way up do you want the tiles, which I didn't think would take quite so much thought. And then I've been trying to program the sim with racing, where I've got to the fact that I've got a racing thing, and I have spent today trying to model an archway in Blender. And that has been my progress. I still have to lay out courses and stuff, and then I will be done with that. But no, nothing. Not even looked at it. Well, I've looked at stuff, but that's about it. I've a bunch of stuff to do.
Delivery of anything? Because I've ordered stuff and I'm like, no, denied.
No, I've still got my SMA adapters from last week that have to go on those antennas for OpenHD, which I haven't got around to doing. And I've still got that wing that needs maidening. So I've got stuff to do when I'm going to go out, but I'm finishing off what I'm doing, and then I'll be off trying to fly stuff.
I did a vanity project. It's one of the vainest projects I've done. Which means it's quite vain, the grand scheme of things. You know how I love my ugly old deviation handset?
Mm-hmm.
It's yellow, and I think it's amazing. So I made a matching neck strap in yellow. I bought webbing and I stitched it and took the buckles off another one. It sat in front of the telly and stitched up the ends and made myself a slightly longer than usual neck strap, because the ones that you get with radios that claim to be Futaba branded, but I somewhat doubt, are rather short. And I'm not running my, everyone's seen these orange ones that have Futaba printed on them. Yeah, thought I'd do that. That matches.
Yeah. How bad did you get told off, Caroline? Apparently, she flew Tuesday, drove to the Ribblehead Viaduct, and used my new to me DJI Mini 2 and my FPV plane, and got told off.
Just a little.
Who'd you get told off by?
FPV, hello.
The Viaduct Police.
I know, yeah. Some dog walker, probably.
Yeah, was it a dog walker? Be honest.
I can't believe how much you love that yellow radio. Even though
bizarre. I mean, he's doubled the weight of it with that strap now.
Yeah.
Well, I learned to fly on it, so it's just, like you like your Tyrannus and stuff.
Yeah. Literally got like no anything.
No anything? What do you mean no anything? It does 1,000
well, you had to
gimbal updates. You can't do that on a bloody Tango 2.
Yeah. Didn't you have to like get it to? Oh my God! You're dicing with your life.
We got a visitor. This is very unusual.
Yeah. Hello. So that deviation handset is the fanciest deviation handset you can get, apart from one that they did as a V3, which was black and looked boring and had an onboard voice module. that one doesn't have the onboard voice module. I could mod it in, but I can't be asked. I don't really like voices that much. But it does telemetry. It's got an OLED screen. It does CRSF. It does the menus for ELRS. And yeah, 1000 hertz gimbal updates. And I've got the AGO1 mini gimbals in there. So it's just pucker. It's perfect.
Oh, man. Yeah, didn't you have to like write your own code to get the Lewis script working and stuff?
I did quite a lot of testing. And yeah, I did read the C code, but it just looked like Moon code. So yeah, I didn't end up actually editing it. Oh, so she's got the same and added the note. Ah, right. So someone had, yeah, okay. So someone gazumped
Scared of being
her,
undercut.
paid actual money, and was pissed off. She turned up without the relevant affidavits. Fair enough.
Yeah, you should have been like, "Yo, do you want my footage?" like you know, get closer.
Unless it's a no-fly zone, it's like it's perfectly fine to fly there.
Unless he's trying to get these sweeping pans, and she's just like absolutely ripping it past 100 miles an hour.
Like, oh yeah, he's there with like a Phantom 4 or 3.
He's up there with his Matrice, slowly panning side to side, taking geographic shots, hoping to sell them on for 20 grand to some TV company. Meanwhile, there's this FPV plane like screaming past at 110.
This sounds like a bit. If you've ever been down in like a tourist place and someone decides they're going to take a picture of someone, so they stand in front of the statue and then they walk backwards like 30 feet, expecting no one to cross in front when it's on like the pavement. That's a bit like that sort of thing. It's like, I'm trying to film here. Well, I'm flying my plane around. Screw off.
Photobomb! Photobomb!
Yeah. It's like you'll get a nice picture of a plane for scale, and you can pretend the viaduct's incredibly big.
I'm allowed to be here.
He was fascinated by the plane, so maybe that's a good turn. Yeah. Is this your new He-Wing, Caroline? Because I saw that you were doing a little build vid on that.
Yeah, I'm only the first sort of 6 minutes into that. I've still got another 40-odd minutes to watch for the second part. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't done the second
you've
part.
knocked things on the floor.
I was intrigued by the off-brand wing controller, and I spent quite a while trying to check it out. It looks like a clone of a Maytech F405.
It's my beer.
Which looks like it's no longer available, but was apparently quite good value when it was still for sale.
Yeah, I tried to repair this, something that Paul gave me, and it's got an internal short. I'd get it working, and then it would just heat itself up and then just short. And I updated it, and like it had the early BL heli noises on it as well. So I've been trying to do stuff. I've literally got no choice other than spend £1 million on a 4-in-1 ESC, but to go back to the historic quad build, of the early days. I think that's my only choice.
Everything is very expensive, isn't it? It's like, oh, I could just do with buying one of these things to put in that thing, and then you look at it and you're like, no, I'm not going to do that.
That's why I was talking up some of the
something
Sky
in a
Stars.
cupboard.
I was looking at Hobby RC, and they stock a bunch of Sky Stars who seem to have got an unfair reputation. They've been around almost as long as iFlight, but for some reason they don't have the snappy marketing or whatever. Their kit seems to be available at a good price. I talked to the guy who was doing PCB layout, and he had some really interesting ideas. He was not just doing castellated pads, but trying to offset the pads at an angle so that they could decrease the width of the ESC, but give you nice long pads, but diagonal. So you'd have, it was a very interesting layout. Looked pretty cool.
Yeah, we should get Caroline on one of these days, because it was quite a laugh at the FPV drone fest. Was that right?
Our calendar is quite free at the moment. We're thinking about who we should book. If anyone's got any ideas, do let us know, because I'm drawing blank after blank after blank.
Weren't you talking about some sort of nutcase that's building his own helicopter?
I think he's dead now already. after another
Really?
flight, surely. Well, it wouldn't take much, would it? Looking
It
at
was
how
a
that thing was flying.
twin rotor. What do you call it? Not collective.
It was a coaxial helicopter,
Yeah.
which was presumably has fixed pitch blades.
Yeah.
That he was hovering around, looking very shaky, and had a bit of a dodgy landing. It was just the fact that whole assembly was shaken about above his head by like an
It's
inch.
wonderful.
It was incredibly
He
scary.
got an outboard motor and run a helicopter off it. I mean, what more can you ask for? It's pure risk. At the upside, he was able to attain a height of something like 4 foot off the floor, a considerably greater risk than using a step ladder. Absolutely incredible.
It's interesting how home built helis work the opposite to hobby, where it's like few mistakes high is what we go with, and they're like no more than half a mistake high in case it just conks out and completely crashes.
And he had like landing skids front to back, and then he put another set of bars out the side just in case it tipped. So it was like 30 feet wide. It's gigantic.
It was very weird. Yeah, having one. The last guest I talked to and ignored our email eventually got back to me and said, I'm going to check you out and let you know. So he's probably checked us out because he hasn't let me know.
Oh dear. I don't know. Just to try and have another. I asked Oscar to put like a little shout out and get some ideas and that. Wanna try and do some nerdy shows. See if I'm half tempted to like start going through some old stuff and like see whether I can get an email for CADX or RunCam and see whether there's any engineers or that would actually talk to us rather than sales people. It's quite difficult, really.
I'd love to chat to some of these engineers just to ask them what their testing policy is, which doesn't seem to exist. It's like we ship it, we wait for the faults to come up, and then we make a new one.
Well, maybe we should talk to some of the Betaflight people because they're actually behind the scenes trying to corral a lot of vendors into discussions to actually validate that things like the power isolation is good, to make sure that the gyro is getting clean power and you don't find out about it only after you've crashed like 3 quads and the customers are screaming.
Yeah.
So we could ask a few people. There's a few in Australia. Yeah. We'll see.
Let's see. I think there's a problem as the weather changes, isn't there? About there's less flying going on. Therefore, there tends to be in the past years, it's been a case of everybody buying stuff and building stuff, but of course nobody wants to spend money on stuff now because it's too expensive and everything else is going up. Get Carl from HD0 on. His goggles are out soon. I hear he's someone to talk to.
He asked
guest to come back.
But he was busy with racing, and he was, to be fair. But yeah, he does very few public appearances.
It's the homemade helicopter, this one. Oh, I don't know, because the cat's throwing the mouse on the floor. There we go.
I do love that.
I need to find the actual... Where's the chat window gone?
Oh, look.
Unhelpful.
No, it wasn't that one, Caroline. It was a different one. That's got a single bladed thing.
There you've gone. How'd you get over there?
Oh, look. Caroline and Drone Seekers. Oh, I'll watch that later.
Can't believe they listed you as Caroline Terry Standen.
Yeah. You funny looking Terry.
I saw that before we came on, there was talk about the Geeks of Honor people trying to get hold of Vernon for the umpteenth time. I cannot believe the Microsoft drone, was it now V3 or 4? Is still ongoing. I don't think anybody's had any quads. I mean, it became slightly irrelevant 2 years in, and another 2 years on, it's like even more irrelevant.
Especially that shitty little brush thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember that time we had him on and we met him
Yeah,
at the drone show?
yeah. You missed your opportunity to kill him then.
I mean, weirdly, Vernon's actually quite likable, but in a case of like, if you meet a mad person that believes their own bullshit, they can also be quite likable. And he was convinced that all these things were absolute genius, and he was really enthusiastic about it, and that enthusiasm was kind of catching. And he didn't like to point out that, yeah, it's not that. And even when I did point out it's not that, and he said, "Do you still stand by that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "No, you can't. It's brilliant." He's a weird one. Oh, he's turned up apparently.
Well, it's nice
Vernon
if people
turned up
have
in
a
Geeks
hobby,
Wireless chat.
and they should be allowed to go do that. It's just a shame if they insist that their hobby should be used by thousands of other people. That gets to be a bit more in dispute.
Well, we ended up doing a whole show about Kickstarters and similar ilk, didn't we? And the general message is buyer beware. You're investing in someone's idea. Don't necessarily expect to get the product. But that didn't
And
stop.
even if you do get the product, it's like buying it on a random flea market. It's not like you're going into a store and you've got proper support. You've effectively given someone cash for a prototype, and there's no guarantee that that prototype's going to stand the test of the time, or that they'll stand behind it in future.
Or even that it gets made.
Yeah.
That is the problem.
There's a couple of sites, aren't there? And some of them give you your money back if they don't actually reach the target. And with others, it's just like, yeah, your money's gone the instant.
Oh, if they don't reach the target, it doesn't go ahead and you get your money back. If it reaches the target, they ship the money off to them and they give updates and do what they do. But, you know, if their business plan is wrong, if they spunk all the money up the wall and say, look, we tried, we didn't do it, there's no comeback, essentially.
Business plan is to send all the money to this account in the Caymans, and then, yeah, we've got a meeting. Where? Well, not here. See ya. Bye. Because there was a thing with Kickstarter, and then Kickstarter were getting really sick of these projects, and they moved them into a different channel, right? Not a different channel, a different website. People started to not be Kickstarters for hardware stuff.
I mean, his one wasn't Kickstarter, was it? It was the other one. What's it called? Thingy. Something.
I think Kickstarter actually had a lot of blowback from those reputationally.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something I jump on very often at all so far. My wife did once. I started getting random like, why have we paid £90 to this Kickstarter project? Have we been scammed? I started calling the bank saying, what's going on? She's like, no, I backed a project. What? Weird.
Crazy fool.
What? Really?
Yeah. Pippa backed a project about, it was something to do with something having like medical experts actually answer medical questions. It's basically to try and stop the idea of people generating rumors about medical stuff and incentivizing like medical experts to actually talk about it. Which it's a bit like when you meet someone like about coronavirus, like Tony, who will say things like, do the research. It's like, well, I'm not a PhD like biochemist, so I don't know if that's appropriate to me. There he is. It's so far he's alive, but it wouldn't surprise me if we read about this terrible accident soon.
Yeah. For no apparent reason, this man's head fell off last Tuesday. Experts are still consulting as to why this happened. He's done an impressive amount of work. I mean, he's a machinist by trade, and he's a pretty accomplished one.
It's really impressive, but part of the reason I like to fly models is because it's all the thrills with none of the risk to my life. When I think about putting myself in a light aircraft, then I go like, people are like, do you not want to fly in real life? It's like, no, I've been in a Cessna. It's horrible. It's like a terrible fairground ride where you think you're going to die all the time.
Yeah. It's like
I've been in helicopters as well. They can be smooth, but too much can go
You remember being
would
like
drift.
under the age of 20 when one of your mates thought they had a cool car and it was a banger and they drove it way too fast to try and impress you. It's like that, isn't it? Being a Cessna, you're like, are you sure this thing is going to be in one piece by the time we finish this trip?
Yeah, and I've been in loads of accidents because my friends were driving around in the cars and like, oh, we've crashed into another car. Oh, Gary, I noticed you've we're all sat like this in a ditch saying, did you not see that turning then? It's like we're literally in a ditch filling up with water in the middle of the countryside. It's like, well, this
Now
could be tricky to get
imagine
home.
you're riding this contraption.
Yeah,
and you landed
I
in
don't
a
want to.
ditch. Yeah.
I kind of feel like if you're going to do it, commit, go up high, fly around, because what he's doing, he's basically going around trying to hover, isn't he? And it's always going to look flaky because hovering
Ground effect.
something like that is going to be tricky. And he's got that all your proper helicopter's got some sort of special gyro stabilization to like to keep the tail in and all sorts of stuff like that. So he's going to always struggle with there. It might look better if he goes up like 100 feet, buzzes around a few fields.
I did wonder why is like if you build a heli that's got like, I don't know, a model heli with a 40-centimeter prop or something, and you can put a flight controller on that. Why not just put a flight controller on it and have it gyro stabilized? Why is he trying to manually stabilize it? Just seems like that's all the risk and none of the reward.
Because he has to. He hasn't got his direct control to that. Is literally he's got this stick. Eventually, he's got the motor on a stick, and he moves the stick back and forth, left and right, in order to decide which way he's going. So that would be.
So he needs to move the fly-by-wire to start with and servo stabilize the motor. And when he's got the motor on servos, they need to be pretty chunky servos, and then he could consider
would need to be
like
chunky servos. But and then the tail works by varying the speed of one of the props, I think, and this sort of thing. We've asked Peter Spirall, he doesn't, or Shreepall, he doesn't answer our emails, I'm afraid. He would be a great guest.
He's too busy doing backstroke in his pool of money.
Yeah, it's the thing.
It's the thing. When you make it, you make it. And that's it.
To quickly answer Carl C's question, my heli flying, I'm just waiting to go back out in the field and fly it some more. It does need quite a calm day. The heli, even though it's like 110 mil big, handles wind quite well in the hands of an expert pilot. In the hands of a beginner, it can be a bit of a liability. And it tends to, you know how you can like stop a quad on a dime if you want to. It's like, jump. With a heli, I tried to do the same thing and it kept coming. It's like, oh, it's going to hit my face. It takes a little bit more to spin round, especially that sort of thing. So if the wind's coming at me, then that's bad. If the wind's going away,
is that something trying to smooth out the controls and stop you skid stopping the heli because it's too violent, or what?
No, because I started off in this gyro mode, which is basically equivalent to like an angle mode thing, but now I've moved over to. Oh, did I send you that one?
Still got it.
Still got it. I've moved over to the proper 3D mode, although not flying 3D. It's essentially like flying acro.
Right. That's like constant head speed, and you're changing the collective to go up and down.
The head speed's not constant. It's linked to a throttle curve. You can make it constant with the idle up switch, but then it goes to 100%, which sounds frightening. So I haven't gone there yet.
There's usually a couple of switches like for head speed, so you could set constant head speed, but 60% head speed or something.
Oh, you could do, but I suppose the whole idea of idle up is it's completely controlled by the collective pitch, and so you know you're going to vary your collective based on how fast you want it to go up and down and stuff. NJ did recently do a heli video. I haven't watched it yet. He's got one of those.
Yeah, he's still alive.
Yeah, he's off touring again. I've been looking at his Instagram, and he's off with good old Kim doing his thing with his guitar.
La vida, whatever.
I know.
So heli flight sim. I actually tried to do some heli flight sim stuff against my instincts because I'm pretty terrible at it. And the one I found that was the easiest to get hold of, and I think the best, was AccuRC2. And you can get a demo of it, give it a go. And yeah, you can crash a heli more times than your bank account can sustain all in one session without worrying about things. I don't know if it's realistic because I've never flown a heli other than comedy helis, like toy helis.
Oh yeah, I think you mentioned that one last time. I kept trying to check it out, and I've forgotten. The one I'm using was called, or is called. I'm looking for it in my list of apps here. I can't find it. It's like called X Heli or something like that. Heli something. Oh, where's my search bar?
I didn't touch it, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, Heli-X10, where there is also a free version with like 3 or 4 helis and a couple of planes, and that feels not bad. I think the problem always in sims is the lack of risk, and often there's a lack of wind considerations. Is you tend to be able to just automatically risk and commit more without worrying about it, which is quite good for sort of figuring out your general muscle memory and things. It's still so hard as a quad pilot to get past the drop the throttle in the first case of an incident or problem, because of course on a heli situation that will sort of dive the heli down more. Fortunately, on my throttle, the throttle down is like 0 throttle at least, so it just sort of drops out of the sky. But still, I was
going to ask if your model has kind of an O insert expletive button that just freezes it.
No, I mean I could flick it back into gyro mode, and it will sort of self-right itself and do
altitude hold?
There's no altitude hold. No, it's not that complicated. But often the case of when I'm in the midst of, like, I've got my oh shit time, I'm flying reasonably low so I can keep a decent look of what's happening and not too far away because it's only little. If I was up high, then I'd like lose orientation a bit quick and struggle. So often it's the case when I'm coming into the corner, bad things happen and I lose it there. I did talk to NJ, who watched my last video, and he said you've got to just commit on it and rescue it and use the tail much more than the roll. Don't think about coordinating the turn so much, and just bring the tail around and let it follow. So I've got some extra bits to do.
Yeah, that surprised me, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about how a heli's built. It's got so much yaw authority.
Sorry, is mentioning RC Life On. Have you guys been watching him?
No.
Amusing. He was he's the guy that made the sort of RC surfboard. Just kept sticking a load of motors in things. And he recently, I watched one today where he tried to make a Jesus Christ, what do you call it? When the board comes out of the water on a hydrofoil. He tried to make a hydrofoil board, and the first thing he did is did this 3D print of a hydrofoil, which I thought, that's not going to work. It's really long and thin, and the instant he put power on it, the whole thing just cracked. But he got it going in the water, but it didn't get up on the hydrofoil.
He's got some pretty interesting stuff, actually. One of the things that I watched recently, which he did, was an underwater drone where he took drone parts and he just straight up made a submarine, 3D printed a sub, and then
that didn't work particularly well, did it?
Underwater.
That's some serious Thunder 2 vibes right there.
So he used did he on that one? Did he use the tether idea where he's like got the instead of having the whole thing tethered?
Yeah, he's got a tether there.
Oh, I thought the tether was just for the just to get the antenna up above on the top of the water or something.
Yeah, I think the tether's purely for control, because obviously you just can't punch through water. It's like trying to punch RF through steel sheets. It's a lot of work. Yeah, I think he ended up just frying it repeatedly because he wasn't actually able to seal it properly.
That seems to be he's always doing stuff in water, and so far he hasn't really had a good situation
It's kind of cool.
with
Yeah,
kind of an
it does look
interesting
neat.
proof.
yeah.
So
I mean,
much more
there are
nimble
some
than a
open source
regular
projects. There's one called OpenROV that goes to do this sort of thing. But it's nice to think you can. I say it's nice to think you can make it with your basic 3D printed bits and a bit of silicone, but his flooded awfully. Or
Yeah. The good thing is the motors obviously are waterproof. So if you could only like really seal it up, I think what he's done wrong is he puts all his faith in the outer shell, whereas like real subs, the outer shell is just like a bumper basically, and then they've got an inner shell inside of that, so that if you smack the outer shell and get a few drips of water in it, no great shakes. It's okay until the inner hull's breached, right? But anyway,
yeah,
it's an interesting idea. He'd be a cool guest to have on for sure.
There you go. There's Tony. Hello, Tony. Or is it really Tony? We don't know. Tony could have died, and someone else is writing
It could
these
be,
messages
yeah.
in a real
It could be his evil twin.
sick manner.
Could be a clone. Could be
Yeah,
Tony from an
or
alternate
Robot.
dimension who thinks the world is round.
Robo tits Tony.
his brother looks exactly the same. He could just be
Yeah,
taking it in
except
turns.
he's
Yeah.
got a mustache. Yeah,
Be shaved.
so you could
Yeah, that's the only way we could tell the real Tony because of the scar on the chin.
Yeah, so I was talking about NJ's video. Curry, I did a brief bit of research. The one you've got, that XK, looks like a great place to start for beginners, but it became apparent doing a bit of reading that OMP Hobby is like where you go if you fancy yourself a bit of a heli pilot after having got through a few crashes. And the latest video he's got is the OMP Hobby M2 Evo, which is an update to the M2 with slightly bigger motors, a longer tail, and other bits and bobs. And yeah, I did actually watch the video, I think, a while ago.
Yeah,
Looks like a
NJ
very
sent
nice
me
heli.
a video of one of his new OMP machines, and he was flying it, I think, in his house in like a thin hallway, where it's like, well, that looks a bit thin for people, just spinning it round and doing NJ things. And he's like, look, I can just put the controller on the ground because it's so stable. It will just sit there. And he's like, these are really good. Yeah,
Okay,
so
wow.
OMP,
Yeah,
a good thing.
Did any of you guys catch the DRL stuff?
nah. What happened?
I don't know. I didn't really follow it. I heard a few people like mention it, and they're just, as far as I know, they're just like up in the sort of like drama of it, you know, and like rivalry between the pilots. But yeah, that's about it really. I just thought I'd show a little, you know, few little clips and that, but I didn't really.
I kind of have trouble with the amount of punditry. If I could see a show that was like 20 minutes of just people racing, I'd watch it. But if they spend ages like hyping it up and talking about the pilots, and if they cut to the pilots like sitting there wearing goggles in the middle of a race and don't just show me the camera, I just don't care. I'd rather
Yeah.
not.
If you like LEDs, then you know.
Which takes us to the land speeder stuff, right? So the Crashtastic land speeder people have actually been flying their Crashtastic land speeders around in a Crashtastic race.
No way, really?
Yeah, and it was so.
Hey.
Oh my god, the camera work could have been done by an MTV cameraman with ADHD. So you got like 3 seconds in cockpit, and you could glance at the speedo, and it's doing like 70 kilometers an hour. And then they cut to someone in the pits shouting into a mic, and then they cut to someone holding a radio, and they cut to someone like pulling an expression, and they cut back, and they've moved like 3 meters forward. They're still like going along in a straight line at 70 kmh. And then they cut back to someone shouting into a mic, and it was all like, oh, it was just exhausting to watch. You didn't get enough camera footage to actually tell how the things were flying. They probably had 30 seconds footage total of actual flight in the
Perhaps
entire
that's all they
video.
managed.
Yeah, that's probably all they managed.
Before
It
soldering
was kind
gave
of a
out.
shame. I did notice when they were cornering, they slowed down to something like 30 kilometers an hour. So they're still very much in test phase. They're not letting these things rip. I didn't say any speeds in triple digits. It was all 70 kilometers an hour or under. So they've got it up in the air. They've not decapitated anyone, which is good. They haven't landed on anyone. So if they manage
Is
a
this
couple of
it?
seasons without fatalities, not. Oh, that's not the land speeder, guys. That's the
The
guy who makes
crazy
jet
rocket man.
turbines.
This is
Yeah.
Rocket Man.
He's
This is
cool.
the man that's out.
He got this thing on the highway,
Jesus
didn't
Christ.
he? He's just
What's
like
it?
driving along a road, like waving at people as he overtakes them. The guy's a
I
loon.
can't even remember what the thing's called. It's a pulse jet. He's out
Pulse
pulse
jet, yeah.
jetting Bruce with these things. I like the
Yeah,
fact
yeah.
these things literally glow to the point that they melt. And he's like, "Oh," it's like, "Oh, you're on fire. It's fine. Don't worry."
Pulse jets
Oh.
are really basic, right? They're highly inefficient.
Oh yeah, super noisy, and they get
no
quite
moving
warm.
parts. This is what Colin Furze was building just to make stupid amounts of noise, right?
Oh, he's
Yeah,
definitely done
quite
some pulse
warm.
jet stuff.
Quite
But
warm.
he also did a I think he's had the best idea of self-propelled quadcopter, where he just had a bicopter, in fact, and tried riding it like a motorbike, which was mental. And somehow didn't
yes,
die.
I saw that. That was pretty awesome. Yeah, wow. I think he's actually fairly safe. He started as a plumber, right? So he's got all his gas safe. He knows actually how to connect these things together, and he knows what's going to happen if it goes wrong. So for all the Daredevil stuff, I think he's actually pretty
Oh yeah,
clued up
he
on
knows what
what
he's doing,
happens.
but he still goes very fast on very dodgy vehicles. But the last year he's been building his tunnel, which has been a bit of an epic
Yeah.
building project. Anyway,
I like the way how he dug the tunnel, and then he announced that he'd bothered to put in for planning permission after he dug it. It's like, hey, guess what? I can now show you this because they approved the planning permission.
Do I need to
Don't
plan
have to
to
just
build?
fill it up with
I
concrete.
just dug a hole. Really, it's like whatever.
Just dug a hole, put a bunch of little mine cars in it. He wants to do one of those lifters to put his car on a raised platform now, so he goes into the driveway and freaking Batmobiles it down into a secret area.
It's like a Batcave, but with a DeLorean.
Yeah,
much more fun.
So better, given what they've done to the Batmobile recently.
So we put Colin in the list of guests that we probably won't get either.
Yeah, we'll do that.
I just want to say a special congratulations to the lettuce. The lettuce out. I know we don't really get political in the show, but the lettuce outlived the our current prime minister of 45 days. So,
has gone. Oh, well done.
Yeah. So
you watch the news as much as me. My daughter had to tell me in a group WhatsApp saying apparently the Prime Minister.
I did notice that we'd had as many chances of the Exchequer between 1993 and 2016 as we did between 2020 and 2022, which just shows how much of a great job they're doing.
It was looking a bit rough, but you know.
I didn't know that was the thing. Can Liz Truss outlast the lettuce? I like it.
And then, you know, got breakfast, and then it was party time. And they had sparkles.
So where is the lettuce? I see a bag of Greg's, but
that is the lettuce there in the wig.
Oh, that looks great. In the wig, it looks like a melon.
I see. It was a lettuce.
Okay.
Could be a cabbage.
Yeah, that's how it started. And in lettuce we trust. You know,
fair dues.
The party went on, and then the lettuce says thank you.
Well, no one voted for her. No one voted for a lot of people these days. That's the trouble.
Yeah, I know.
We don't vote for prime ministers.
No, we just pull some ranting posh twit, clean up their backstory, and throw the lunatic to the crowds to go and grandstand for a couple of 100 days.
No. Anyway,
like
on that bombshell, I think that's all we got time for. You've been listening to Let's Drone Out. We will try and get a guest on somehow. We'll try and find someone, and we'll sort of like come back and maybe get some topics on the go. But yeah, it's been one of those weeks. You've been joined by us, and I just realised I almost forgot to thank the Patreons. This LDO is sponsored by our lovely Patreons that keep this show non-biased and free to say and do as we please, and with the power of our editor, we get edited. And if you're listening to this on iTunes, it's all nice and neat. And if you want to come and join us live on Let's Drone Out, we're live every Thursday at 8 till 9 p.m. And thank you, Patreons, for everything. You've been joined by everyone's favourite Curry Kitten.
Goodbye and hello from previous.
Yeah, remix. And we've got Belric or Stephen with the moustache.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to our lovely Patreons. Great having you all here.
Yep. And I've been Brighton to Life Lie. And come back. Andy RC and Tony, we miss you. Take care.
And everyone, check out Caroline's He-Wing FO1 maiden video coming out tomorrow. Apparently, look forward to see how that happens. Thanks.
What's your video recommendation of the week? Can one of you give a video that you've enjoyed that's not Caroline?
I saw a good wing chasing one, but I can't remember where I saw it now.
Go through your history.
Hang on, it might have been on. Hang on, go away. Studio.
Eddie,
mine's a tie between scientists grow human brain cells to play Pong and the tank simulator, which I think is from Switzerland or somewhere, where they had a tiny camera that moved through a map linked to a metal shoe that would actually hydraulically propel the tank cabin around really roughly. They're both on our news and topic channel if you want to check it out. But yeah, it got me thinking maybe human brain cells could be in a flight controller in the future.
Make a better
More on that next week.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Can't find mine. Must be on Facebook. I'll find it next time.
I'll see Test Flight. Richard Warwick says.
Absolutely.
That's his boat restoration, like 100 million hours of sanding. That could also be called.
Hey, man. It's a lot of worse things you can do this evening. Thank you. You've been listening to Let's Drone Out. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Bye-bye.